Oh boy. Right. So whereabouts are we now, hey? Goodness me, we missed out on the live show last night. I really hope we've got everything in order for tonight's show. So let's see what we've got happening tonight. I couldn't get the stream done last night. It was just my daughter just wouldn't go to bed. It was a rough night to say the least. So I hope if you tune in tonight, you enjoy the show. We've got a handful of questions, maybe 6 or 7 questions to run through in tonight's show. What have I been up to during the last week or so? Not a great deal. Hobby-wise, that is. Still sorting out and getting stuff at the studio in place, properly sorted out and organised. So that's taking up most of my time there. And the fact that I've rearranged this place sort of means that some things are still packed away in boxes and whatnot. So it's just a matter of getting that stuff sorted out and organised. So I hope you've had a good productive last week. I have put together and base coated a bunch more Baramites for my Gates of Antares army, but beyond that, not a great deal. So I'm not feeling fantastic today. I've been a bit crook. My daughter was a bit crook. Like I said, she was up until sort of after 11 o'clock last night. I just couldn't get her down to bed, and then this morning it was terrible. That nappy situation was was not good. So I'm not feeling fantastically well. My left side of my body is sore. It aches from time to time. I had way too many motorcycle accidents and it gets sore. So I'm going to quickly run through these questions and we'll see if anything pops up in the chat, and if it does, we'll run through it. But yeah, there we go. So I hope we get everything coming out tonight okay. But look, there we are. Let's get on with the questions for this week. So B-Dub, again for the 3rd week in a row. He asks me how to address curved features in laser cut terrain, kerfing, etc. Is it hopeless? What are the alternatives, if any? And his question is, how do you stay focused? Question is, how do you stay focused enough to run a gaming-centric business? Well, the first one, how to address curved features in laser cut terrain, is it hopeless, and what are the alternatives, if anything? Look, that's still something that we are trying to come to grips with ourselves. And when I do come to grips with it and we come up with a solution that works for us, I am probably unlikely to share that with people just willy-nilly, because it is one of the big issues with laser cut terrain is that you end up with this stuff that's just very blocky, very 90-degree sort of stuff. Excuse me. And it is possible to do a whole bunch of curved stuff, and you see a lot of that happening in ships and stuff, but that's built up in layers, right? So you want a curved bow, so the front of the ship is curved like this. Now, the only way that you can really do that at this point, and the way that most people do it, is just to build your MDF up in layers. So 3mm, 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 and you'll end up with a curved bow at the front. If you want to do sort of convex and concave shapes, then you need to be messing around with cards, different sorts of card stock. Whether that be mat board or thin card or stuff like that. But like I said, it's still something that we're trying to explore and work our way around. It's not hopeless. It's just a matter of trying to think creatively and how you can use different mediums in your kits rather than perhaps just purely relying on the laser cutter. Up until they give us sort of heads that can rotate and twist and turn, there's obviously going to be some limitations there, and you do hear people grumble and complain about that, but I mean, that's one of the limitations of the tool, right? So the second question is, how do you stay focused enough to start running a wargaming centric business? Well, a lot of people will tell you that I don't, and I will be the first one to admit that my brain is all over the shop. We have quite a broad goal for what we are doing at Knights of Dice and for things that I'd like to achieve in the future. But in terms of it being focused, it's not really. right? This is still a hobby, and I still need to make sure that I'm enjoying it while at the same time making sure that business is being taken care of. So I try to make sure that I'm enjoying what I'm doing and I'm having fun doing what I'm doing, because this is a niche market. And certainly at this point for us, at least anyway, the laser cut terrain market is quite saturated. Some of it with some very good products and some of them with some very cheap products. And I'm not going to say the cheap products aren't good, because I mean they fit a specific role in the market. So there's a certain audience out there that wants a cheaper product and are happy to pay for something that's a little bit less detailed, or something that's quite simple. And people who want to pay for something that's a bit more high end, and they have a bit more disposable income. They want something that's a bit better. And so there's different gaps in the market, different fish in the market, I should say. So staying focused for me, at least, is a massively terrible challenge, because I've never been a focused person. I do things to a degree, to a large degree, when I feel like doing them. Now, that's not a fantastically good way to run a business, and as I did say, we have a quite a loose and quite a broad plan for what's happening at Knights of Dice, and it's one of those goals that's going to take a little bit of time to achieve. And I don't know how to answer the question, to be honest. How do you stay focused enough to run a gaming centric business? The first thing, enjoy what you're doing, be passionate about what you're doing, and then every day you come to work and every time you come home, you'll feel excited about going back to work, or being at work, or putting in the extra hours that is required to run your own business. Certainly from a startup perspective, some people think that it's well, I don't know what some people think. I'm not going to speculate, but it's not as easy as going to the office at 9 o'clock in the morning and coming home at 5 o'clock. That's certainly not the case when you're running your own business, or starting your own business, or trying to get things out there. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And when I opened up my retail shop, it was just me for quite some time, 7 days a week. Open from sort of around 10 o'clock till 10 o'clock at night, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's what I did. It was an 80-hour week, and you did it because you have to do it. And you when you build things to a certain point where you can then hire someone to come in and take some of that stress off, so you can have a day off, then you do that. So how do I stay focused? I don't know. Simply by being passionate and enjoying what I'm doing, and try to make a little quid out of it, and support someone else's family as well as my family, and there we go. So, next one. Dave Martell asks, how did I get started in gaming? And that's his topic for me to have a bit of a ramble about. And his question is, zombies are everywhere. What's your opinion on survivalist games? How did I get started? Like most of us. G'day, Dragon Gaming. How are you? Thanks for tuning in. Oh, I better turn off that bloody notification crap, hey. Let me shut this down. Otherwise, because this chap will send me messages after messages after message. Let me just turn that off, and we'll turn the sound off. And we'll quickly send him a message and okay, so how did I get started in gaming? Like most people probably who probably started out playing miniature games, I started off playing Games Workshop games. It was what was around at the time. I was maybe 15, maybe 15 or 16. I'd say around there somewhere, sort of 25 years or so or whatever ago, and almost 25 years ago, Jesus, almost. And my friends and I used to collect comics and trading cards and that sort of stuff. We used to go every weekend into town. I'm going to take this hat off because it's itching me, and you can once again admire my lovely hair. Oh, isn't it beautiful? We used to meet up and head into town to go to the various comic shops and look for comics and buy cards and all that sort of stuff. So comic cards, right? Spider-Man and all that sort of stuff. And we used to go to a place called Tactics. It was in the Southern Cross Arcade on King William Street in Adelaide. It was a cool place. There was in the basement, so sort of there was no windows or anything like that. It was a proper basement shop, and they had cards and all that sort of stuff, and Magic the Gathering and miniatures. Yeah, sort of this was back at the stage where there wasn't too many sort of stores around that stocked miniature games. In fact, I don't think they sold miniature games. At least maybe not in the beginning. I don't remember seeing them there. They had rows and rows and rows of miniatures for D&D, basically. The old school companies, many of which I don't remember. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I really, I should have done this last night, but it wasn't possible because of my daughter. But Tuesdays is my night when my dad comes around and brings curry from his restaurant. And it always, I love it so much, but can't stop myself from eating so much of it that I end up with this terrible indigestion. So where was I? I was talking about Tactics and their D&D miniatures and lines of miniatures from Ratham and Ralpather and all these other companies that are no longer around. And nothing has really been missed much at all. We've basically just started. And so we used to go there and sort of buy our cards, and I used to buy a few miniatures every now and then because we used to do a little bit of role playing, not a huge amount, but a little bit. It was something that I was interested in, and one day I was there in Tactics, and Tactics had this members only area where you could pay your membership fees and you could go in there and they'd sort of have a vending machine and a pinball machine and lounges and gaming tables, right, for people to sit down, play card games, and there were a group of guys up in the back left hand corner playing this miniatures game. So I was a bit intrigued. Andrew, the guy who ran that place, sort of let me go back there and have a look at what was going on. I didn't have a membership at that stage. I don't think I ever had a membership. And they were playing Warhammer Fantasy. So I was like, what's this about? And okay, yeah, how do I learn more about it? Okay, so I cottoned on to White Dwarf. And time went on, and Tactics in the Southern Cross Arcade moved to another shop in the city. It was a surface level shop, proper retail store and whatnot. Anyway, between that shop opening and me sort of seeing this first game of Warhammer Fantasy, I was sort of reading the White Dwarves, found out that there was this company called Games Workshop, that they had a store. Did they have a store? Maybe they had a store in Marion, in the Marion Shopping Centre. I can't quite remember. Anyway, so that's how I got started, right? In Warhammer Fantasy. Went to Tactics and played a lot of games there. It was good fun. I really enjoyed it. I played a lot of Fantasy Battle. I had an elf army and a dwarf army, and it was good fun. And things just sort of slowly progressed from there. As I started to learn more about gaming, I learned about 40k. I never really played it very much when I was younger. I was always about the fantasy, about sort of the magic, the dragons, and all that sort of stuff. That's what I was much more interested in. That. So we did that probably for maybe a year and a half. I would have been 16. Then I moved to Canberra, and my parents got separated when I was quite young, so I went to spend some time with my dad in Canberra, and that all happened very quickly. Anyway, that's a completely different story. We don't need to worry about that. And so I didn't have any contact with anybody in Canberra about miniature gaming, and it was just something that was something I did when I was a kid, right? So I got into rock climbing and all that sort of stuff, and my miniature gaming hobby was non-existent, didn't exist. Then after about a year and a half in Canberra, I came back to Adelaide, caught up with my friends. They weren't playing games any longer, but it was still an interest of mine. And sort of more years went past. I got into a professional sort of career at my dad's company, and I sort of slowly started to pick it back up again. And I sort of, things didn't really kick off very much until I moved to Melbourne when I was 21, I think. And then I met a whole bunch of people. There were more stores around. The industry was more mature. So that's sort of how I got into gaming when I was 14, 15, 16 or so, somewhere around there. I can't quite remember, playing Warhammer Fantasy. So there we go. Zombies are everywhere. What's your opinion on survivalist games? Well, there's two things there, right? There's survivalist games and then there's zombie survival games. I think they're two different things, right? I think zombies have been overdone. They're just everywhere, right? He says, Dave Martell. Not Martell. Marticle? Dave Marticle? Looks like article with an M. Marticle. I don't know. Warlord now have their zombie game out. Mantic have their zombie game out. Lots and lots of little skirmish games have zombies as a creature that sort of appears in the game. It's so many TV shows, so many computer games. I don't know, it's a genre that people love, I suppose. I do love a good zombie sort of story. I watched The Walking Dead for quite some time, although admittedly I haven't watched the last couple of series because I just got bored of the storyline, right? I don't know. I don't mind them. I do think that the market is saturated with them, and I don't know. Different people I've spoken to have said that. Different people I've spoken to have said that Warlord's game was a knee-jerk reaction to the Mantic Walking Dead license that they achieved and ran their big Kickstarter for, because Warlord had taken over the distribution, or the manufacturing and distribution, or let's just say distribution, because that's what they say they've taken over. They don't specifically say the manufacturing, but then a lot of their stuff talks about retooling stuff. They took over the distribution of Wargames Foundry. I can't remember what they're called. Let's have a real quick look. Wargames Factory, I think it is. Yeah, there we go. Wargames Factory, who have a whole bunch of zombies and stuff in their ranges of miniatures. And like Warlord do, and I've spoken about this a couple of times before, and they do it very well, is to take a range of miniatures and wrap them up inside a game, and sell it, right? Let's just have a quick look. So their announcement for Project Z was earlier in January this year, right? Now, I'm just gonna have a quick look about January, February is the first thing that pops up here in Google when I look for The Walking Dead from Mantic. Look, I don't know. A lot of people said that it's been a kickstart, a knee-jerk reaction, right? But I don't know. It's even with the people that Warlord have, I doubt that they're gonna sort of have that sort of reaction to someone else's zombie game. I just think it's purely coincidence, because there is so much. There is a big fan base out there for zombie-based games. Right, let's have a quick look at these comments. Wow, I was really enjoying these chats. This guy has a really super weird name. Crew Orange Lassasissis. I don't know, man. Maybe one day I'll figure out how to say that. Keep commenting and I might get better with it. Perfect time for a vlog. Good afternoon or evening, everybody. Funny thing, they took the Wargames Factory zombies and effectively doubled the price. Yeah, they did. They removed a bunch of, certainly with a bunch of the box sets, they took out a bunch of the figures and increased the prices of them slightly. But I mean, that might be them justifying the fact that they've retooled a bunch of stuff. That made the boxes fit more so with the games and the ranges that they currently sell. Right. I want to quickly hammer through these because I'm not feeling massively well. Like I said before, that has nothing in it. Day, where are we? Anton, suggest a topic I can ramble about. Back in the day. My question is, how do you get into the hobby? What are some of your most memorable games and such? Well, I've been through that. Oh, sound shouldn't be off. All my lights on my little sound desk here are flickering away. Hang on, I will be back in just 1 second though. I don't have any music today. It's a little bit unprepared, but I'm just going. I would just pop this slide up for you. Tea break. There we go. Back soon. Okay, so sorry about that. Let's come back to what we're doing. Let's turn that little timer thing off. Hey, why do we need a timer on? I was going to run that up in the top right to let everyone know how long we've been streaming for. Okay. Now, where were we? Here we go. Anton's question. How did you get into the hobby? Well, I've been through that. What are some of your most memorable games and why? Look, that's difficult for me to say, right? Because I have a really, really bad memory. I have a terrible, terrible memory. And I certainly remember a few games. The first one that jumps to mind, and Scott likes to bring this up every now and then, was a Mordheim league or sort of campaign that we were playing. This was the first game of that campaign, and I had a Vampire Counts faction warband. First turn of the game, we hadn't played Mordheim for a long time, right? First turn of the game, my vampire falls off something and fucking dies. Now, we got the rules for that wrong, which we subsequently found out sort of not too long after that situation. Anyway, so I thought he was dead, right? And I fucking rage quit like you haven't seen anyone else rage quit. Fucking this is bullshit. This game is fucked. I'm not playing this shit. Anyway, it was good fun. And then after that, we sort of realized what had happened. And I was like, no, he's not fucking dead, man. It's just fucking prone. He'll get up and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so we got on with the game. It was good fun. It was good fun. Really enjoyed it. Oh, boy. I'm feeling crook. Matt asks me, have a ramble about rules. I'm really not in a rambling mood. I just want to get these questions done. I'm so sorry that tonight's show is going to be a bit crap. If you could design a perfect rule system, what sort of mechanics would you include or focus on? And would it be historical or fantasy? It'd probably be fantasy, because I don't know enough about history to really do a historical game justice. And with fantasy, you really have the luxury of being able to do whatever you want. Make up your own world, make up your own factions. You're not limited by what you choose to create. As you are with a historical setting, then your world is very much prescribed. Your factions are very much prescribed. So I'd certainly do a fantasy game. If I could design a perfect rule system, well, I don't know if you can. Rule systems are one of those things that sort of develop over time as people play the game, and then I realize and find that, hey, well, that actually doesn't work as it was designed. It needs to be tweaked, it needs to be changed, and that's how we end up with versions 2 and 3 and 4 and 7th edition and all that sort of stuff. Things progress as people play the game and realize, hang on, that doesn't really work very well. And some of those things can be hard to identify during the design phase. It's kind of like developing software. For me, we come up with we sit down with people, we brainstorm, we come up with an idea or a concept, we draw up some prototypes, we show those to the client, say, look, this is what we're thinking about doing. Are we on the right track? Okay, great. Let's build a working prototype. We'll make a working prototype. We'll send that back to the client. They'll play around with it and say, look, this doesn't work. That doesn't work. This sort of could probably be streamlined a little bit. And can we include this and take that bit out? And once we've come up with a scope for the project, then we develop it. And we release out to them a beta version of that program. And if it works, everything works. And we tweak and change and fix things to make sure that everything works. And we send out a version 1. It's exactly the same for rules development. What would I focus on? What would be my core mechanics? What are the sort of mechanics you would include or focus on? Well, I don't know. That really depends on the type of game that it's going to be. And now I do work every now and then on a couple of different games that I've been designing over the last sort of several years. And who knows if anything will ever come from those. It's sort of something that I enjoy doing when I manage to get a spare sort of half an hour every now and then, or a spare hour to write a little bit of fluff, look over the rules that I've developed, and they do change. The mechanics change, the movement mechanics change, the combat mechanics change as time goes on, and I come back and I go, well, hang on, now that I read that back, I haven't looked at this rule set for 3 months. When I come back, that really doesn't work out very well at all. So I do not want a new shaver. Thank you, Martin. I am quite happy. You do not need to send me a new shaver. I'm happy with my beard. Thank you very much. It does need to be a little bit trimmed, but no, I'm quite enjoying it. I was thinking actually just the other day maybe I should get rid of my beard, but I don't know. I'm kind of enjoying it, right? I've had a beard for quite a long time, and my wife doesn't like me to be clean shaven. She likes the beard. My daughter likes the beard. It's at that stage where, and that length now where she can tug on it. So no, I quite like my beard. I do need a new shaver though to clean up this fuzz on the top of my head. This bald spot at the back is escalating. Anyway, so the mechanics that I would concentrate on in my games, and this is sort of where I have been playing around with my games, is movement. You want movement to be fluid. You want people to be able to navigate around the battlefield without too much restriction. So movement is a big key issue. The combat mechanics need to be not necessarily intuitive. That might be the right word, no, the wrong word, but they need to be interactive. Excuse me. Where both players get a chance to interact in that combat. Now, a lot of games are like that, and I really like Tribal for that reason. Both players are actively engaged in a round of combat. A round of combat in Tribal consists of up to a maximum of 5 exchanges, and during each of those exchanges, both players are doing something. And in this case, Tribal is a card-driven game. You're playing cards, trying to outmatch the other person. So the movement, the combat, and then something to do with the sort of psychology, right? That allows... I'm not talking about magic and all that sort of stuff here. I'm talking about the psychology of your beings. I'm not going to call them men because they might not be men. They need to have some sort of psychological influences on the game, or the game needs to have some psychological influences on the protagonists of the people involved in the game. I think those are the 3 core things that really make a game, at least from a core mechanics perspective, fun to play. And then you throw in all your interesting stuff, either in your characters' profiles or in unit profiles. But it's good fun. I enjoy writing fluff. I've written quite a number of short stories when I was younger. It was something that I really enjoyed doing when I was at school. It's something that I do periodically, every now and then. Smash out a couple thousand words on something random. So at least from the perspective of my games, if I do ever release them, I want them to be full of story. I want there to be a whole bunch of stuff that the player can immerse themselves in, rather than just a really solid rule set. And I say that having never really been a fluff person. I guess it's different, I suppose, when you're writing your own stuff, and you want to get immersed in it, and you hope that other people will get immersed in it. So yes, the fluff I enjoy writing, and the rules, just tweaking it. I don't know if I'll ever release any of the games that I've been working on, but we'll see what happens over time. So Ara asks me again, what are my Wargaming origins? Well, this is certainly a show for my Wargaming origins. Like, I've been through that at the beginning of the show. Started off playing Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and had a big, massive, long break as I moved interstate and had my started my professional career in software development, and then sort of came back to it many years later, like most of us, I think, have done. How did you start Wargaming? Yep, we've been through that. In Adelaide, yes, I did. What was the progression from beginnings to Battle Bunker? Well, I ran through all of that. After I'd been involved with my dad's company for quite a number of years, maybe 10 years or so. Yeah, probably 10 years. I started there in 2001, moved to Melbourne, and in 2009. Yeah, 2009. So almost sort of 8 years or so. I really loved that work. But it was getting a little bit too much after sort of 8 years of working with my old man. Sort of, we were clashing heads, and he had a different direction for the company than I thought the company should be going in. And anyway, I needed a break, so I took a break and I opened up Battle Bunker. I thought it was a fantastic name for a miniatures shop, and it clicked with me, right? And so I looked up all the trademarks and all that sort of stuff. And we registered the domain names. All the domain names and everything were registered were not taken. Business names weren't taken. There was no IP registered. No IP sort of having a brain fart moment. With IP Australia, there was nothing was registered for Battle Bunker. So I thought, fuck yeah, all right, it's a cool name, it sounds cool, I'll register it. And it wasn't until maybe a month afterwards when we were actually in the process of setting stuff up. And then someone said, are you associated with Games Workshop? And I was like, no, well, we sell Games Workshop stuff, but not really. They're like, oh, why is it called Battle Bunker then? And I was like, that's where I've heard that name before. And anyway, so there was a mild amount of confusion between one of the stores that Games Workshop opened further down south side of town, which they called a Battle Bunker. We never really had Battle Bunkers, Games Workshop Battle Bunkers like they do in the States here. Anyway, so there we go. That's how I ended up opening up the Battle Bunker. I ran that for 2.5 years. It was good fun, but ultimately at the end of the day, it wasn't to be, simply for a whole bunch of reasons, which I went through very briefly a little bit in the previous episode. But there we have it. Alex from Ulfsark Games asks me other miniature channels on YouTube. As a topic to have a bit of a ramble about. Now, as I said before, I'm not feeling fantastically good, so I don't want to have massively long rambles. And my question is tips on how to make a good battle report. So let's cover the question first. How to make a good battle report. This is an interesting subject, right? And it's one that I'm looking at right now because we are, and I've mentioned this, sort of alluded to it in the previous episodes, in the process of setting up a new channel, which I'll talk about later on when things are more ready to sort of start kicking things off, which will have a heavy focus on battle reports. Now, there's lots of different types of battle reports, right? Lots of different types of battle reports. I think it's a matter of identifying which type of battle report you like and then figure out how you can make that better. For example, photo battle reports where there's just a whole bunch of photos, you voice over the top of them, take a bunch of pictures during your game, you put a voiceover over the top of the pictures and talk people through the game. I don't mind some of those sorts of battle reports. It just depends, and this is where I was saying you sort of make it better, how many angles you get of whatever action you're talking about. All too frequently, you'll see battle reports in that format that just have random pictures taken during the game from any side of the board, from any angle, and sort of then they string them together, put a voice over, and there's your battle report. They're really super hard to watch because at the end of the day, when someone's watching a battle report, whether it be a video battle report or a slideshow, you have in your head an orientation of which way the game is going. Which player is at the top of the screen, which player is at the bottom of the screen. Which way the armies are going, where the flanks are, and unless you're capturing all of that properly in with your pictures, it's very disorientating to watch a battle report or listen to a battle report, especially when there's just one photo showing this is my unit moved up here, and then ramble on for sort of 5 or 6 minutes about why that unit has moved there, what was the intention, etc., what your opponent might have been thinking, and part of the reason why you moved it there. And again, that's sort of something that can make your battle reports in this specific format different than other people, is a little bit of analysis of the battle about why things have happened, about why your opponent might have done what he did in his previous move, which has influenced what you've done in your move here now. I think that people enjoy that sort of analysis, and I've seen a number of battle reports on YouTube that are commentated. And I spoke about this before. I like a commentated battle report because it's interesting sometimes to listen to the players banter and back and forward and carry on with each other. That's always interesting. But what's more interesting is what's going on inside their mind. And they're obviously not talking about that at the tabletop. But if you get a couple of commentators sitting back and talking about the game. They obviously need to have experience with that rule set. They need to understand how the game is being played and the ebb and flow of the battle, to be able to give good, concise, clear, and accurate commentary. It's kind of like watching a game of football, right? Whatever code of football you follow, they're all the same. People are out there playing the games on the field. Every now and then, someone might be mic'd up, right? And the broadcasters will tune into that person who's been mic'd up on the field and listen to what they're saying to their teammates and whatnot. But for the most part of it, you're sitting back listening to the commentators, watching the action on the screen, and I really enjoy that. But that's complicated to do, right? You need more people to be there if you want to do that sort of stuff live. You need to have multiple cameras. So let's look at the next thing here, video battle reports, right? How do you make a good video battle report? Again, it depends on what you're doing. There's a lot of different styles of video battle reports. I think that's people taking their rubbish out. I like different types of them. There's those that just set their camera up on a tripod, record the whole game, like Wargaming for Fun and Andy and Aid, and I really enjoy their channels. Aid does edit out some sections of the battle, but for sort of the most part, you're watching these guys, two experienced fantasy players or whatever game they're playing, having a good game of fantasy. Now, they know their game. They're not always having to check rule books and whatnot and look up stats, and I'm sure when they are doing that, Aid is editing that bit out, but that's always good fun to watch. You get to see the whole battle. You get to hear them carry on and the banter that happens between two players. And those run for an hour and a half. I don't mind that. Then you get battle reports like Ash's on Guerrilla Miniature Games. And he pumps out a huge amount of content. And whilst I appreciate those battle reports, I don't necessarily enjoy them. It's certainly in the style that Ash films them, because they're so rapid, right? And this is how Mini Wargaming films a lot of their battle reports, and I think that's where Ash's background is coming from and why he produces the reports in the way that he does, along with a whole bunch of other reasons, including time, family, children, and whatnot, is that my unit A is going to move from this spot to that spot. Switch the camera on, record. This unit's going to move up there, turn the record off. And then we figure out that unit needs 4s to hit the other unit. Switch the camera on. We need 4s to hit the other unit. Roll, turn the camera off. So you just capture just the little bits and then string it all together. And you end up with this action only, so to speak, battle report. I've always found them very difficult to follow, especially when during the editing process parts of the sentences have been faded off. I don't know, I don't really enjoy those. It comes back to, Alex, I suppose, looking at the battle reports that you enjoy watching, right, and figuring out how you can make those battle reports better. Whether that be by having more camera angles, whether that means having some fancy stuff pop up on the screen and score trackers and all that sort of stuff, or if it means having people come back later on and commentate on games. I did watch a channel on YouTube for quite a long time about a game that I knew nothing about. I just enjoyed his commentary. And he would review games that people had played in the past and look at them and give his commentary. I really enjoyed that. I didn't know anything about the game. It was some real-time strategy PC game. But I loved it. So these comments, it's Tuesday, by the way, and Moonlight Massacre says, blame the Queen for the late video. Well, we did have a long weekend here for the Queen's birthday. Monday was a public holiday, so... but that is not the reason. The reason was that my daughter had quite a late nap yesterday, between sort of 4 and 5, maybe 5:15, and I just couldn't get her to go to sleep at her usual time of 7:30. She didn't want it. My wife is away in the US at the moment, so she's missing her. So there was a whole bunch of, where's mummy, where's mummy, where's mummy, I want mummy. And it was a long night, and I finally managed to get her into bed or asleep at just after 11, maybe 11:15, by, and this is no reflection on the game, reading her the fluff from Gates of Antares. I told her as many stories as I had in my story bank, and I obviously didn't want to have too many lights on to read her little children's books. And anyway, so we lay in bed together, and I read her that book, and finally she fell asleep, and then it was good. So yes, I'm tired. I'm not feeling fantastically good. The left side of my body is hurting today, which happens every now and then because of all these accidents that I've had, and fractured hips and wrists and all that sort of stuff from motorcycle crashes. But she is at least in bed, so I can do the show tonight. So that is why we are late. So I was talking about Alex and his question and tips on how to make good battle reports. Now, if you want to submit questions or topics, in the description of this video, as well as on my Facebook page, is the link off to the Survey Monkey questionnaire. It's got 3 questions in it. A topic I can ramble about, your question, often they're sort of interrelated, and your name if you want to leave a name there. So he was interested in how to make good battle reports, and like I just said, it's just a matter of finding out what sort of battle report you really like to watch. Because if you like to watch it, then you'll be more motivated and excited about producing that battle report for yourself. If you like something that somebody else is doing, it's always easier to emulate that with your own style and your own flair than doing something that you think is popular but don't necessarily enjoy doing it. So that's what I do, Alex. Find the type of battle report style that you like, and add your own flair, add your own spin, and sort of come up with the ideas that will make it unique and different to you. So other miniature channels on YouTube, well, I don't know what to say there. I mean, there's a whole bunch of channels out there, and I enjoy a whole bunch of different sorts of variety. I normally like the people who are just raw and open and honest, who just pop their cameras on, have a bit of a chat about something. I do enjoy it better if they do edit the video a little bit. I've watched some really interesting videos. The content of those videos has been interesting, but the sound has been shocking. Sound makes a big difference to a video, and as someone mentioned in the beginning of this series, thanks very much for putting a proper mic in place, because it makes a big difference if you're listening to someone for quite a long time. But I don't know, there's a channel out there for everybody. Whether you like the simple hints and tips, the people that cover lots of different genres or games, the people who do 40k specific tutorials or concentrate on workshop games or concentrate on privateer press games, there's channels out there galore, and that's what for me at least makes YouTube a great place to fish around for that sort of content. I really wish that the YouTube algorithm that shows you videos from your subscribers on your front page was slightly different. I wish there was a little bit more control over about how it creates that algorithm. She's awake. It's 10 o'clock. I can hear her screaming. I picked her up this afternoon from daycare at 5 o'clock, and she was zonked when she got home, 5:30, 5:45 or whatever. She was asleep on the couch. I tried to wake her up because I knew if she slept at that stage, she'd be awake at this time. But bear with me for just 1 second. Let me see how serious that situation is, whether she's just moaning, because she's in the room directly above us. I'll be back in just a second. And maybe she's just having a little bit of a grumble. Oh no, she's screaming. I can hear she is screaming. All right, I'm going to have to unfortunately cut the stream short. I must take care of my daughter before anything else, as I'm sure you can appreciate and understand. So thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I hope you've had a wonderful week. I'm hoping that I can get around to producing a couple of videos about some of the hobby stuff that we're doing at the studio this week. Some of the things that I'm painting and working on. But we'll just see how much time I get for those sorts of things. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Once again, sorry the stream was delayed by a night, and I'm sorry I've had to cut it short, but she's really carrying on right now and I need to go. So thanks, guys. I'll catch you next week. Take care. Bye bye.